Good evening. Today's Thursday, March 7th. Tonight's school committee meeting is being broadcasted through local media and local outlets that are present. If you wish to have a copy of this, please reach out to the administration or the local media. Be more than happy to present that to you. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to introduce the Milford High School Percussion Ensemble that will be playing for us tonight before our meetings. Would you mind?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jill Baudet. If you don't know me, I'm one of the music teachers at the high school. I teach band and all of the general music classroom at the high school, including piano class, drumming, co-op music, music theory, a whole bunch of fun stuff. So it's a pleasure to play for you tonight. Just to fill you in on what we've been doing, March is really busy for us in the music department. We were supposed to play at a percussion festival on Saturday, but we got snowed out, so hopefully that'll get rescheduled. I actually stole a couple kids from theater rehearsal. There's a giant theater rehearsal going on tonight. Tech Week starts next week. The show You're in Town opens next Friday, and so that's going on with most of our kids involved. And we are also rehearsing to go to Disney, and we're very excited about that. And we thank you for your support for that trip coming up. We're working really hard, and we're looking forward to it and representing Milford in the most positive light. So thank you for your support. So tonight I've brought the percussion ensemble. They're going to play a short piece for you called Mi Milagro, which is My Miracle, and it is inspired by a Mexican folk tune. So the instrument you see behind me is called a marimba. It's like a big xylophone, essentially. So we have a trio playing on the marimba, and then you have assorted other instruments in the back. So I'll introduce the kids for you. Matt Hildebrand, Eric Stockwell, Ben Johnson, Dylan Hoy, Robin Cabral, Zach Dakotas, Michael Sargis, Sarah Valise, and Ronan Fleming, So this is Mi Milagro.
You guys have any questions for these talented folks?
I have one
Yeah,
question.
go ahead.
So first of all, you did an excellent job.
Right.
And thank you for taking time tonight to come and share with us. So this will be a silly question, but on your way to Disney, how will an instrument like the marimba either be transported, or what's the plan for that?
Luckily, Disney has all of the big instruments already there.
Okay.
So we only have to bring the small things.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, good luck. You'll definitely make Milford feel very proud.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That was phenomenal. How long do you practice a piece like that before you can perform it at that level?
We meet once a week after school. We've had it maybe 3 months-ish, about 3 months or so.
That's great. And then between the instruments, if you're a percussionist, do you ever switch the instrument how transferable are those skills?
They are transferable. They like to gravitate towards one part of the section, and I have a lot of people who like the marimba, and then other people who like the other drums. So they gravitate, but I encourage them to move around.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you, guys. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome job.
Thanks.
Just give them a minute to head out. Do you want to do the warrant while they're doing this? Okay, this ready? It's going to take 2 seconds, yeah. All right. Okay, next on the agenda, to begin the agenda, is the approval of minutes. I'm going to assume that everyone had a chance to read the minutes and we're all good with the minutes?
I responded back to Melissa on that couple changes.
Yep,
That-
yeah, and she'll make those
I know
adjustments.
that she wasn't in, so
Yeah.
those adjustments will be made.
Yep.
Properly.
Yeah, so can I get approval of the minutes for last meeting? With Chris's changes, yes. A motion by Laura, seconded by Megan. All in favor? Announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Chris, I know you said you had one you had?
Yep. Again, the Milford Special Education Parent Advisory Council would like to invite the entire community to the presentation by Sarah Ward. This presentation is on executive functioning, and it will teach children to manage their time, space, and materials while keeping their emotions in check. It'll learn powerful strategies to help your children develop independence with executive functioning skills. And this will take place next Wednesday, March 13th, starting at 7 p.m. at the Stacy Middle School Auditorium. And again, the entire community is welcome to attend.
So I've got three, Mr. Chairman. The first one is, this is great news. Eamon Cunningham, our English curriculum team leader and a teacher at Milford High School, has been recognized as a semifinalist for the State Teacher of the Year Award. He will be engaging in a process over the next month as they determine the finalist or the State Teacher of the Year. We'll keep you posted, and congratulations to Eamon. If anybody knows Eamon Cunningham, he's phenomenal. And very deserving of the award. And I think he's a real contender for we'll find out in about a month or two. Secondly, this is another exciting piece of information. Woodland student Sarah Balducci invited Congressman Joe Kennedy to visit Woodland Elementary School, and he took her up on the offer and visited the school this past Friday. I had the opportunity to actually speak with someone from his office this morning, and she stated that the congressman enjoyed the visit, was impressed by the questions from the students, and loved touring Woodland Elementary School. And I want to thank Congressman Kennedy for taking time to visit us, and he spent a great deal of time with our students, so we truly appreciate that. And finally, the long-range education facility plan presentation. We have rescheduled. The first presentation was to take place on this past Monday. We were obviously snowed out. We have rescheduled that to March 25th at 7 p.m., which will take place here in the Teacher Resource Center at Milford High School. We have another event on March 11th, which is, I believe, next Monday at 10:30 a.m. at the Milford Senior Center. And our final presentation, it's not our final presentation now, but it was originally our final presentation, which was scheduled for March 19th. We have At 6:30 p.m., we have a presentation in Spanish. At 7:30 p.m., a presentation in Portuguese, and that's taking place at 41 Pine Street. And all this information is available directly on our website. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nope. All right. Next on the agenda, invitation to speak. Anyone out there? Yep.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Harold Rhodes. I live at 11 Janock Road in Precinct 2. But before I start with my formal comments, 3 pieces of news came across the wire today, which I think which will impact what I'm going to say tonight. The Lordstown General Motors plant, which had been producing vehicles for 50 years and had 2,500 employees, closed indefinitely last Friday. 2,500 employees out of GM's planned downsizing of 25,000 employees, which is about 1/5 of their overall workforce. Additionally, Business Insider said 2019 will be the largest year for store closings, with an expected 4,000 stores, 1.8 million square feet, and 125,000 jobs lost. And the last one that really is the one that most bothers me, and probably everybody in this room, new numbers came out showing the increased disparity in the inequity of wealth. The top 1% of owners of wealth now have the same amount of wealth as 235 million Americans. That's why I'm here tonight. Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee, thank you for this opportunity to speak. For just a moment, let's think back a few years ago when many of you attended Milford Public Schools and probably Milford High School. At that time, Milford School District constituted a level 1 school system. Milford School District received many accolades from parents, from students, from taxpayers, and from many third-party reviewers. And many out-of-district students wanted to attend our schools. And most importantly, MHS graduates, like many of you here today, could look for gainful employment in the field of your choice. And Marcia and I were glad to have our daughter, Rebecca, graduate from Milford High School in 2006. And Mr. Consigli can hardly forget, as hard as he might try, Rebecca's outgoing personality in his health class. Unfortunately, as you're all aware, over the last several years, the quality of the Milford School District has significantly declined. Before the DESC changed its measurement system, the school district fell from a level 1 to a level 2 school district to a level 3 school district. Incredibly, the superintendent continues to proudly refer to Milford School District as being evaluated by the DESC as a school district that does, quote, not require assistance or intervention. Regrettably, the superintendent fails to qualify this statement, leaving listeners with an unclear understanding of the poor quality of the Milford School District. First, the superintendent should also add, when saying that over 75% of the school districts in Massachusetts are also evaluated as not requiring assistance or intervention. Second, and much more importantly, the superintendent fails to qualify the statement not requiring assistance or intervention with a much clearer characterization. This category, not requiring assistance or intervention, actually has 3 subcategories, including exceeding targets, meeting targets, or partially meeting targets. The DESC has concluded overall that the students within the Milford schools system are just partially meeting targets. I hope that each of you are as upset with the assessment that our students are just partially meeting targets targets. For me, as many of you know, this is no less than simply awful and just absolutely unacceptable. Mr. Chairman, as you are well aware, I continue to be quite angered by the district's leadership's seemingly inability to raise the quality of the Milford School District. And please, Mr. Chairman, no more excuses. The school district's poor quality is not due to the district's demographics. And please, let me say that one more time. The school district's poor quality is not due to the district's demographics. Any such statement is highly offensive and just should not be tolerated. Improving the school district's quality of education will only come when this school committee espouses that the current poor quality of education that our high-needs students receive is due to the inability of this district's leadership to bring forward a solution that will enable our high-needs students to receive excellent educations. And if this district's leadership cannot bring forward such a solution, then this school committee must bring forward that solution. So let's all agree tonight that the challenge of how to teach our high-need students belongs solely to the district's leadership and to this school committee, and certainly not to our high-needs students. Moving on, although only briefly mentioned at last meeting of the school committee, through her analysis, Laura indicated that morale within the district was declining. Yet nowhere on tonight's agenda is a further discussion about how this low morale within the district will be remedied.
Harold, you're running out of time.
Would you like me to quit?
I just said you were running out of time. If you're done, you're done.
No, I'm not done.
1 more minute, please.
Let's honestly admit to ourselves the poor position that the school district is in. And then let's put into measurable education programs that will lift our school district to be among the best school districts to exceed all targets. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the school committee, as you drive home tonight, please remind yourselves that the quality of the future lives of our students is deeply dependent upon this school committee's uncompromising commitment to academic excellence. I so profoundly hope that from this moment forward that this school committee will demand uncompromising excellence from the district's leadership. Thank you very much.
Chairman, may I also make a statement?
Sure.
I'm glad that Mr. Rhodes began his statement tonight by asking us to think for a moment. That was the way you began tonight, asking us to think. And I see we have a candidate in the audience tonight, and what you're thinking when you're sitting, running for this office, I think is very different from what you think when you're actually sitting in one of these seats on this side of the table, and maybe soon you'll have that opportunity to see what it's all about. I'm also proud to announce, and really this has come from some of the newer members on this team, Megan and Laura and Chris, with your addition, we've been talking about the opportunity to hold office hours, and that will give us more opportunities to think between meetings. There are a lot of things that happen between meetings. The role of a school committee member doesn't just take place every other Thursday night. It takes place every day of the week through phone calls and emails and personal interactions with constituents and school department members and school administration. There are a lot of things we think about between meetings, and coming into tonight's meeting, what I realized is we don't often get to talk about some of the things that we've been thinking about because we're very driven by an agenda. We're very driven by topics that are helping to move our school district forward. And I did prepare a statement for tonight because I felt it was important that some of the things that I was thinking about in my statement tonight is not on behalf of the committee, it's on behalf of one member of the committee, which is myself. So I'll just take a moment to share this. 16, quote, advisories have recently been sent out by Mr. Harold Rhodes, who has addressed the committee this evening. While reading email number 15, in which Mr. Rhodes provided a set of instructions informing families as to how a child can be choiced out of the Milford Public Schools, I noted that he stated the following: To quote from his email, most every response to recent advisories included 3 questions. Should my child attend a different school? What do I need to do to have my child attend a different school? When should I begin the process to have my child attend a different school? As I read and thought about email number 15, in which Mr. Rhodes stated that he received multiple responses to his emails, I felt that Mr. Rhodes must have received a great volume of responses from community members asking him how to unenroll students from the Milford Public Schools. Why else would he have sent an email to the entire community with advice on how to access school choice? Eager to understand just how many responses he received, and also eager to understand exactly what these people were inquiring about in their emails, I asked of Mr. Rhodes 3 questions, and I will read all of them. Question number 1. How many emails or correspondences did Mr. Rhodes receive asking the 3 questions that he articulated, all of which essentially asked, how do I remove my child from the Milford Public Schools? Question number 2. From whom did he receive these responses? Were they from parents of current students? And if so, what grades are their children in? Question number 3. How many responses did Mr. Rhodes receive where the respondent actually asked to be removed from Mr. Rhodes' email list? Through his attorney, Mr. Rhodes informed me that he would not provide answers to my questions. Mr. Rhodes has publicly articulated many opinions about the Milford Public Schools, and he has made multiple requests for information from the public schools. It bears mention that while he certainly has the legal right to request such information, for each email he sends, for each set of documents that he requests, for each phone call that he places, he is taking our school committee and school administration away from the valuable work that they should be doing on behalf of our students. I would certainly hope that for as much as Mr. Rhodes requests and receive information from our school district, that he would be equally willing to share answers to the questions that community members and school committee members have asked of him. I will not disagree with Mr. Rhodes that the Milford Public Schools has work to do. There is no school district in America that should ever rest on its laurels and proclaim that there is no work to be done here. But it should be noted, among the things that I've been thinking about for weeks and weeks now, it should be noted publicly that our school committee, our school administration, and our school faculty members are working tirelessly on behalf of the students of Milford. As a 5-year veteran of the Milford School Committee, as the parent of a 7th and a 10th grader, and as a person who has committed her career to working in various public school districts in the state of Massachusetts, I am confident in my statement here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Milford Public Schools Policy, first reading, indirect cost allocation agreement. Who wants to take that one? Convincing.
I was going to point to you, May.
That was said confidently, by the way.
The policy DIC that you have in front of you as a first reading is what is referred to as the indirect cost allocation agreement. This agreement was first developed back in '06 with the town accountant at the time, Mr. Pine, and I. And essentially, this agreement has to be in place in order for the town to legitimately be able to cost the town's side of expenses in actual sense, and as well as what's referred to as Schedule 19, and you, I'm sure, have heard that before. The Schedule 19 is the estimated costs that the town will anticipate having during the budget cycle for the following year, that the town side has for the school expenses, and you have them before you, administrative costs, the accountant's office, the treasurer's office, and like such. Pupil support services, which would be anything that the Board of Health might do on the town side for the schools. Operation and maintenance of school facilities, which is essentially any cost that the Parks Department, right now that assessment's at 50% as they do maintain our fields. Sewer use allocation. Of course, the employee benefits. Without having this agreement, the employee benefits, which are a large cost to the town for school employees, would not be able to be assessed in the Schedule 1 of actual costs. And then all of the life insurances, unemployment insurance, any workers' comp insurance, all of those expenses that the town has would are an allowable cost to net school spending. And finally, payments to other districts, that would be our vocational school assessments, and the school choice costs. So essentially, this full Schedule 1 and the Schedule 19 have been reviewed again by Zach Taylor as Director of Finance and we feel as though the assessments are still in place. Therefore, we're not recommending any changes. We're leaving all of the assessments the same. And the only other piece that I want to point out is that the form has been updated by Melissa. She was good enough to remove the old articles and make it more friendly in terms of being able to apply the dates. But essentially, there are no changes to this policy other than updating the forms.
So, Kathy, Section 5, fixed costs, they make reference to the Catholic School Board of Health nurse and the position.
It was my recommendation to leave that because we don't know if another Catholic school might be acquired at St. Mary's. So we have a placeholder if in fact that did happen in the future.
But why would those?
Is that interesting?
Yeah, but why would those costs be covered under our?
We have expenses even under our current grants that we're required to pay to a Catholic school if they reside in your community. There's a state law that refers to those expenses do be charged off as the town would have expenses to support them.
I'll give you an example, Joe, is like if there's a Catholic school in a community and a student's on an IEP and we're providing OT, PT, or speech, that would be an example of something that might be a cost that we would undertake, but we provide the service at the Catholic school.
Okay.
In the town as well, not
there's
just
a variety,
the
There's a
school.
variety of ways that happens, but that's a good example of one.
Okay. And then the juvenile officers. So that
That would be the SROs.
and it's saying 90 days per year, but they work more than 90 days, right?
They do. That's just in the form. It would be the full assessment. And I can update that to 180.
You all set, Joe?
Yeah. If you ran it by Zach on the other allocations, 50% seems like I don't think Zach's spending 50% of his time on the schools, or is he?
Well, there's all the reporting that's done,
Yeah.
and any payroll, the accounts payable, the warrants, all of that they're doing on a weekly basis
In that office. Okay.
in that office. So if you take all of the salaries and the work that they're doing, it's very close.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions? No? Thank you, Kathy. And that being a first reading, we will not vote on that tonight. That will be for a future agenda item. Next on the agenda, school committee operational goals. Megan, Laura, you want to take this one?
So this one should also be reflected in the first reading because it will be a policy document. So just putting it in that purview.
Yep.
So the committee established a policy whereby it would establish annual operational goals back in 2015. And historically, the practice has really been to establish the goals as part of the strategic plan setting. And so there hasn't been kind of a separate policy document. So going forward, we've agreed as a committee, we want to be more effective in establishing specific school committee goals that are aligned with our core responsibilities, establishing the educational goals and policies for the district, hiring and evaluating the superintendent, and reviewing and approving the school budget. So the document that you have in front of you would actually replace the existing policy in entirety. And these goals would be assessed and updated on an annual basis. As a group, you can recall on January 23rd, we met as a committee and sort of conceptually discussed these. And then Laura and I worked together to kind of format them into specific goals. So hopefully you feel that these are reflective of that discussion. Laura, I'll turn it over to you.
So we focused on 3 areas that we thought were critical: the long-range facilities planning, student achievement, and then the communication and collaboration. So for the long-range facilities planning, the school committee will assist in this effort by working with the district's leadership to engage the community and with the planning process. So that means specifically to participate in public forums, obtain feedback from community members, participate in meetings with town leadership, town departments, the Milford Finance Committee, and helping to establish a project timeline, by April 1st. We have as a timeline for that, which is good. And then student achievement.
The next goal is student achievement, and really they're correlating achievement and success in helping our student population, and we believe we can best do that by increasing the average per pupil spend to closer to the state average. So really working to close that gap over the next 5 years and continue to advocate for the funding through Chapter 70 to our district.
And then so for the communication and collaboration, just really working to strengthen that between the district leadership, the parents, townspeople, community members, citizens of Milford. And so we're gonna start, Jen mentioned this earlier, hosting office hours to engage with community members, and we're gonna try and do at least 2 office hours prior to June 30th of this year. Increasing transparency within the school committee by making public folders on the district website, so that material can be accessed easily. We're hoping to do that by May 31st at the latest. And then also having each subcommittee establish a goal. So the policy, budget, marketing, and communication to each have their own individual goal.
So really we present these as a first reading and, seeking the committee's feedback and input and take any and all suggestions.
I got one quick question. When we do this, you said that we're going to do this annually.
Absolutely.
When would be the date that we would start doing the next round of
Absolutely.
goals for us?
So our goal, Joe, is to have all of this complete sort of by June 30th, such that we could, in conjunction with the new school year starting, redo
Okay.
it. So sort of in line with Kevin's goals, so that it's on an annual basis.
Thank you, Megan. Anybody
Yep.
else have any questions? No? Chris?
The first statement up at the top, was that something that we crafted, or was that something that was
No. Yeah, that's taken
utilized off of?
right from the MASC,
Yep.
Chris, in terms of their goals, and certainly we want these to be in line with our core responsibilities. We
Okay.
just felt like this expanded it a little bit.
Excellent, excellent. And that date for the long-range education plan, that's for this year. So it's trying to get everything in line for this year.
The main goal there is really to have sort of a timeline that's going to set the path forward. Exactly.
Okay. Yep.
Anybody else?
And then, hold on, Joe. One more. And I just want to make note, and I think this is a great document, and it's just something to note more for the committee, just as we proceed for the next round of it, is possibly just adding like a school choice funding goal within this. So if I recall right, school choice funding is in a revolving account, and we utilize those funds as far as like one-time initiatives to help improve our school. So, in a sense, from a marketing standpoint of creating initiatives so we have more kids choice in, right? So again, is that something that in the future just to consider by putting on there? And I don't want to misspeak, but that was my understanding of the school choice in monies. Again, that it's this committee's kind of responsibility to go through and kind of come up with better, with under the direction of the superintendent, come up with different programs that are going to, again, improve our school and make it enticing for other communities, students from other communities to come choice into our school.
So, Kath, do you want to speak to kind of what we were using those funds for? Because
I think it's been a kind of an unwritten policy, so to speak, of the school choice funds, that if something came up through the budget process that the school committee wanted to fund as a new initiative, that would be a great place to go for the funding of that. But the school choice budget is not required to spend on a new initiative. We, for the most part, maintain our course reimbursement that the teachers, through their contract, have available to them. That's funded through school choice. All of our clubs and our extra curricular activities as stipends are funded through our school choice revolving, as well as our Chromebook or our Dell leases, and how we've been rotating those computer initiatives are funded through the school choice revolving. And then it's the school committee's discretionary money on how you would want to spend those funds.
So it might align with some of our goals in the future.
Just wondering if subcommittee goals, Chris, could tie that in. Because one of the goals on here is to have a goal per subcommittee, so maybe we could incorporate that there.
I also think it relates back to the strengthening the rigor of our teaching and learning and happening in our district, and making sure that we allocate funds to support students and student growth.
Yep.
And that's one of the bullets under the student achievement as well.
Perfect. Good.
Anybody else have any questions? Awesome, yeah, great job. Thank you, Megan and Laura, thank you.
So just to clarify, this is a first reading of the policy,
Right.
so which we'll bring that up for a second reading. Do we want to approve the goals, or do we want to do that on a second reading as well?
If people feel comfortable, Kevin, I think it'd be great to just be able to move those forward.
I think that's reasonable,
Okay,
yeah.
Do you want to make that motion?
I would love to make that motion.
Can I get a second to approve the goals for us? Motion by Megan, second by Laura, all in favor? Thank you, great job, guys.
And then we'll add this as a second reading for the
Yes.
actual policy.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
And I don't know if you need as part of that motion, Kevin, it would replace the other in entirety. I just want to make sure that that
Yeah,
happens,
we would
because
just do that
great.
as, yeah, that's,
Perfect, thanks.
On the next one.
yep.
You go ahead.
So we've approved the goals now, can we get them, posted to the district website?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can do that.
great, thank you.
Next on the agenda is report superintendent of schools, teacher and administration recruit.
Give me 1 second. All right. So I'm going to sound like a broken record when I speak to this, but the absolute most important thing we do is hiring. We're a people business. You know, we were just talking budget. 80% of our budget goes towards personnel. One thing that we're really trying to emphasize is the importance of the hiring process. And I just want to give the committee an update of kind of where we are in that process. So the recruiting, selection, and hiring process has begun. We're attending career fairs at Merck, Harvard, Boston College, Lesley, and Bridgewater State. Merck is a consortium of somewhere between 50 and 75 colleges throughout New England. So thousands of candidates attend, hundreds of districts. You get districts from all over the country that attend. So our administrators and teachers are actively participating in all phases of the process. We host a candidate day, which is now tentatively scheduled for May 1st. And what we do on that candidate day, and again, I think we're starting to see the beginnings of districts fighting for a smaller pie of candidates. And we really want to get the best and brightest candidates coming to Milford. So we bring candidates out to Milford. We have them tour the buildings, meet administrators and teachers, ask questions, and we really it really helps them get a sense of, is Milford a fit for them, as well as it gives us a sense, because we get to see the candidates in a variety of different settings, is the candidate a fit for us? In some cases, we've already started the interview process for positions due to retirement. We're trying to begin this process earlier and earlier, so we have access to, the first batch of candidates. We actually hired a chemistry teacher today, so we're very excited about that. But we plan to continue our engagement with our new recruits and hires throughout the summer until they begin our orientation and mentoring program in August, because we want them to stay connected with us as a district. And I don't know if the committee has any questions about any aspect of the process, but it's something I like to give updates on occasion, because we're kind of heading right into the midst of it. And there's really 2 phases of postings. We're starting to post the retirement positions right now, and some of that will, some of those postings will initially be grabbed by internal transfers, and then we'll be reposting. And then we have a second phase after the budget. So any positions that are new, that are part of the budget, part of the budget process, we post those generally sometime in late April or early May, depending on when it looks like those positions are viable.
I think that in any meeting that I attend right now with any other area administrators, the number one topic is how do we bring quality candidates into our district? And it is a struggle that every district is having around the Commonwealth. And I would like to applaud the Milford Public Schools for being proactive. And this is you just listed off a lot of job fairs that you're attending, and bringing candidates into Milford and giving them the opportunity to see our schools and determine if this is a good fit. I think the other really important thing to remember is fit. Right now it's a candidate's world. It's not a school district's world, and it's very challenging when you hire a candidate and everybody crosses their fingers, and in August they say, "Oh, I've decided,
Which happens.
I found something better." So really giving our candidates kind of that opportunity to interview us, but reaching out and taking a proactive stance is greatly appreciated. So thank you. And chemistry, that's chemistry, high school level sciences is one of the hardest.
Yeah, when you're talking
one of the
math,
hardest
science,
areas.
special education, or world language, those are the hardest hardest positions to recruit for.
Yeah, so thank you.
Just a comment and a question, Kevin. So similar to Jen's, having participated in a number of the interviews over the past year, I can speak to the caliber, and I think it is impressive. And I think that's certainly because we're not just posting a job and waiting to see who comes. So I
Right.
think all those efforts are definitely paying off. Could you just explain it a little bit more to me in terms of, we know some retirements now, but we don't necessarily have a universe of jobs posted. So it's more introduction to the district initially.
So we're starting the posting process right
Okay.
now. So we've posted a number of positions
Got it.
where we know they're kind of clean retirements and we're
Okay.
not going to have an internal transfer. We're also posting some positions where we know either some teachers within the district have maybe expressed an interest and want to, maybe apply for that position or transfer to that position. And sometimes it's an interview process, and sometimes it's a conversation with the principal. And that allows us still to repost early on in the process.
Great, thank you.
I don't know if that answers your
It
question.
does. I'm just thinking more like, I'm used to, you have a job posting, you seek a pool of candidates versus this sort of,
Yeah, so it's just a
Yeah.
little, there's a couple,
cycle's different.
yeah, there's a couple layers.
Yep.
Sometimes depending, like with like a science high school opening, we tend not to have a lot of movement. But if like a reading intervention position opens up,
Sure.
or an elementary teacher, sometimes there's some shifting of people in terms of grade levels or schools that just happens naturally.
Excellent, thanks.
Good.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of feedback do you get from potential candidates as to why they make the decision that they make? So are there things that make certain school districts stand out in the hiring?
Yeah, it's a variety of factors. We're a very wonderfully diverse community, and so that attracts a lot of candidates to us for that reason, because they want to work with in a community where there's diversity. A lot of it's personal relationships too. We have a number of administrators and teachers that are part of different networks, and we've been able to build relationships with folks who end up applying for jobs. So like they're connected to a principal, an assistant principal, a director, and that personal connection ends up being very meaningful in the process. And sometimes just the process itself is impressive for a candidate, and they feel like this is an organization that they want to be a part of. Sometimes it's some of the feedback that we get.
And in terms of compensation and benefit packages, like in the corporate world, oftentimes that's what ultimately leads to the decision. But in education, it's much different. Like,
Yeah,
do
there's-
certain communities stand out in that regard, or is it pretty consistent
I
across
think
the
there's,
board?
I think we're generally very competitive regionally right now. And I think we've done, a good job of kind of moving ourselves into a competitive position with the last couple of contracts, because I think our starting salaries, in this region are pretty competitive, and and sometimes higher than some of the other surrounding communities. Where we'll lose some people is to a place like Boston. We'll lose, some Eastern Mass districts who I think are paying a little bit differently, or, some of our younger candidates don't necessarily want to come out to, Central Mass because they want to be in the city, either Boston, Cambridge, or Somerville.
Right.
Sometimes we lose people, for those kinds of reasons. But generally, candidates are very excited to be part of, the Milford Public Schools. And I think we brought in a lot of really high caliber folks, both on the teaching level and the administrative level the last several years. And it's by design. We're putting a lot of effort into it. And, it's kind of an all hands on deck kind of experience.
And when you're talking about compensation, or when they're asking about compensation, are they asking about the starting salary, or are they looking at the full scale? Because what's unique to education is all the steps and lanes
Correct,
that you're sort of
correct.
locked into.
Correct. Yeah. So I think they're looking at. It's funny, if we hire somebody who's right out of college, they're generally looking at that first salary and they're not looking at the big picture. I think if we hire someone with a couple years experience, they're looking at kind of the combination of our health benefits, our where does it go. We've got a very generous tuition reimbursement program that I think appeals to a lot of teachers that maybe aren't right out of college, because they're not thinking about the next degree. They're done. They've got the job. But some people who come to us like mid-career, a couple years in, really look at those other factors and start to think about it. And I think we're even becoming more competitive on the back end. But again, I think we can always be look for ways to make Milford a more enticing destination for candidates. And if you're like a physics teacher, or you work you're a special needs teacher who works with a particular population, you're basically selecting which district you want to work for, and you might have a bunch of check boxes, and you're going to go with the district that kind of hits the most check boxes, and it's really different for different candidates. You know, sometimes geography matters, sometimes it's, you know, school population, sometimes it's, you know, a particular educational philosophy that'll bring somebody into, you know, a school, a district, or a program. So it really, really varies. It's not just kind of that bottom line kind of dollar compensation. It really isn't in the business world either, because there's other factors. But if, you know, all things being equal, you generally go to the place that's the fit.
Right.
And I think we're at a place where I think we're more competitive than we were 5 years ago. And I really felt like when we really started to go to career fairs, I want to say about 5 years ago, on a broad basis. And to some degree, I felt like a carnival barker, kind of bringing people over. And now we've got lines of candidates. Like we were at Harvard last week, and I was there with Jen Orjanian, and we had a lot of people just waiting to speak with us, because I think we're becoming a very desirable place to work. I think for a number of reasons.
One thing I noticed with my own students in the district is a lot of their teachers have volunteered to work with area college students who are either in their freshman or sophomore year, let them come in for volunteer hours, so with some of the local colleges. And I think that's another great way to, like what Kevin said, with building relationships, because those students hopefully will come back and visit us after that experience.
And another thing we've done, which is another way to build relationships, is, you know, a number of administrators, and I know I've done it a couple times, and Craig, I don't know if you've done it, where we go to do like mock interviews and give candidates feedback just on campus. And we've actually hired a couple people from that process, because, you know, you give people like some critical feedback and you have kind of an honest conversation with them, and they appreciate that. And we've done that at Stonehill, Bridgewater, a couple other places too, where we send a person or two on a pretty regular basis, where they'll go in and they'll just kind of, you know, do mock interviews, give feedback, like how do you write your cover letter, hey, this is your resume, shift this around. Those, because we see hundreds of them, actually thousands of them every year.
A lot of those experiences are just a win-win, I think, because a lot of those
100%.
you know, student teachers are, you know, very involved with the students, and they get invested in the classroom, and they're just an added benefit to the students.
Well, plus you're in the building, and you get the kind of the flavor of the place, and I think our schools are pretty dynamic and pretty engaging, and I think we have, you know, very welcoming faculty members. And the other thing we do is we bring teachers who are alumni of the colleges, particularly recent hires, so they can really speak to, you know, what it's like to be a new hire in Milford, you know, how long it kind of took them to get acclimated, and that tends to be very helpful when, you know, and companies use the same approach. It's not anything revolutionary, but it's effective.
Kevin, when you say the job's posted, what, beyond those job fairs, what do you mean by the jobs
So
posted?
one of the main place we post positions is called School Spring, which is kind of like the educational kind of job site in
The
New
LinkedIn.
England. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So generally, if you're, you know, coming out of a school of education, you're involved in public education in some way, you've got a School Spring profile.
Sure, that's your
And you
kind of
just
go-to.
Yeah, and
location,
it's
yeah.
very easy. You press a button and you can kind of submit an application.
Okay.
And that tends to be where the majority of public schools in Massachusetts kind of post.
Okay.
And I think the you know, graduate schools of education, undergraduate schools, all direct their kids to kind of get online there.
Good.
And every once in a while, like if you're at a national place like Harvard, you'll have somebody from like California or like the Midwest, where School Spring isn't used as broadly. And, you know, my first thing is, if you're looking to stay in Massachusetts, you really need to get on School Spring, because that's where basically everybody posts in this area. If we're looking for like high needs pieces, we'll also do like different social media reaches. Like if we know like, hey, we're having trouble hiring, I'm going to go to physics again, because that's a great example of a position where sometimes you struggle to find, you know, a robust candidate pool. But we'll send stuff out on like LinkedIn, Facebook. I'll use different networks that I have of like teachers that I know,
Right.
different like alumni groups, and sometimes we get great candidates through that too.
Good.
So, anything else before we go?
Thank you, Kevin.
Great.
Next on the agenda, report Assistant Superintendent. KP, you're up.
I have for the committee's approval this evening 3 warrants in the amount of $192,126.56.
I get a motion to approve that. Motion by Jim, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
We also have a course reimbursement request in the amount of $5,480.
A motion to accept that motion by Jen, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
And the committee also has a list of the latest appointments from our previous meeting.
Thank you, Kathy. Any have any questions? Next on the agenda, subcommittee updates, budget. What's the roll with that one? Megan?
Yeah, I think unfortunately there's really a lack, I think there was a time confusion this evening, sorry about for that. But we did meet with FinCom earlier this week with their
Yes.
subcommittee, and they were really receptive to sort of the information that provided in terms of the current year budget, as well as we provided an update on past year prior initiatives and how they had done. So sort of showing them that kind of past performance in terms of where we were versus last year, Joe. So just continuing the conversation with them, looking for more feedback as we continue that journey. So
Thank you. In that meeting, it was a good meeting.
it was a great
I'm assuming?
discussion,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely, yeah.
Because I know sometimes those, they're long and winding, yes. Thank you, Megan, I appreciate it. And I apologize that I could not be there. Next on the agenda, school liaison updates. I know we were all recently in there. Does anyone have any updates, PTO or Laura?
I'll just mention that Brookside is doing the Brookside's Got Talent again this year, which is awesome. So that's happening at Stacy Middle School on March 30th at noon, 12 noon. And tickets are $3. You can buy them in advance. And we hope that people will come.
Nice, thank you.
And my daughter's in it.
Megan?
So this week is actually Foreign Language Week at Stacy, which we got to sort of see firsthand. We went on a
Yeah.
tour there. But they had a different activity planned each day for the students, including greeting your teacher in a different language, French and Spanish trivia questions. Their spring musical, Edwina, is currently underway. Actually, there was a performance this evening, as well as tomorrow and Saturday. The students have been hard at work in rehearsals, so hope everyone can get out to see that, 7 o'clock. Students and families entering 6th grade next fall are invited to attend an orientation next Thursday, March 14th, from 6 to 8 in the gymnasium, to have a chance to meet the administration and guidance staff over there. You'll also get a tour of the building. And then the second annual Family Board and Backyard Game Night will be held Tuesday, March 19th from 6 to 7:30 in the cafeteria and gym. This is a free event, but this year we'll gladly be accepting donations in honor of Aaron Zenas. And those collections will go to the Friends of the Milford Area Special Athletes. So certainly encourage anyone who's able to participate in that. And finally, report cards will go out to students on March 21st.
And I don't know if anybody wants to comment on the school visits, just because that's kind of a liaison-like thing.
What was the date on?
Yeah.
The game night is Tuesday, the 19th, from 6 to 7:30 in a combo of the gym and the cafeteria.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Megan. Anybody else?
So maybe just to Kevin's point, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to talk to,
Definitely,
so
go ahead.
myself, Laura and Meg went to Stacy Middle School last Friday. So got a tour along with Craig, and led by Nancy Angelini. So went through numerous classrooms. So it was really nice to see kind of the various classroom settings that are going on. So certainly we were able to see, I guess, general ed classrooms, also some pull-out classrooms. So it was interesting to, again, we constantly speak to the demographics, and I think we saw some of that with the EL population being pulled out, and just the instruction that is given towards the EL population, and just fundamentally their needs and how we're addressing them. It's fun to to go in and kind of walk into the classrooms, and of course all eyes are on you from the classrooms. From not so much as Stacy Middle School. After that, Jim met up with us. We went down to Brookside, and certainly walking through kindergarten, first grade, and second grade classrooms was the smiles were bigger. I will say that. But again, that was another great opportunity just to see the learning environments that are going on. And the kids that are just, the engaging teachers and the kids that are listening to the teachers, and certainly, you've got classes of 20 to 24 kids, and you've got that many eyes engaged on one person in front is just speaks volumes to the teaching staff. So I'm sure you have more to add too. So
No,
if you're good.
that was good.
That
was good.
How welcoming everyone is And certainly if there was anyone who was ever considering coming to the district or leaving the district, I just encourage you to reach out and connect with an administrator and take a tour and really see for yourself firsthand what's going on.
Yeah, we're happy to do that.
Was just a quick question, I mean, was anyone from the FinCom there by any chance? On any of these tours?
No.
No?
But
So I know we had reached out to them, asking them to stop by, so.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to the teachers who let us come into their classrooms, because there was a lot of, we went into several in both buildings, and that was really nice of them to do that. And they were, like Meg said, very welcoming, so.
And it can't help but be disruptive at the K2 level.
No.
because It's like all the eyes go right to you.
So sweet.
Yeah, so thank you to the teachers for letting us come in and visit.
Thank you very much, guys. Next on the agenda, future agenda items. Anyone want to bring up something for our couple next meetings that we've got? Jen?
One thing, I know I had asked you, Kevin, about some feedback on the Blizzard bags, and you had
Yes.
mentioned there would be a survey, so at some point it would be great to see how the district thought that went, and parental feedback as well.
Yeah,
and student
yeah.
feedback.
You know, the initial feedback, if you don't mind me answering, Mr. Chairman, has
Absolutely.
been generally very positive. It's anecdotal, though.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be giving a survey, I believe, the week of March 25th. That we're going to ask some questions about the long-range ed plan,
Mm-hmm.
as well as we figured we'd just kill two birds with one stone and do some questions on the Blizzard bag, too. And that'll go to students at the secondary level,
Mhm.
parents, and faculty.
Great. Thank you.
I could tell by looking on social media, everyone posting their pictures, Blizzard bag, yay! While my
That wasn't the kids.
While my kids were sick, so, yeah, right?
The high school snowman was the most impressive picture. I don't know if people saw that. That thing was like 8 feet tall.
Missed that one, yeah. And one more item.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I know Laura did mention last week in culture about, you know, I guess we're not a little above where, I guess, we're not at a point where we want to be as far as the culture a little bit, it sounds like, from the teachers, from their feedback. So I think it's just good, maybe we talk to that, what can we do from a committee side of it to, you know, maybe promote some professional development, things of that sort, or team building wise. You know, what can we do as a committee wise just to kind of assist that culture and help benefit a little bit.
Yeah, so I may push that to April just because our March 28th meeting is kind of full, both,
Yeah,
and then we won't have the feedback on the survey.
That's
from the
fine,
previous one.
yeah, I mean, it's
So-
something to look at for next
Yeah,
spring.
We can definitely bring that into for April,
You know,
as a
just-
discussion point. That's not a problem at all.
Yep.
Yes, Laura?
And I know I mentioned last week about the update on this at Stacy Middle School as far as the progress reports, but I know it was just last week, so
Yeah, so
if you
I
can
you
add
know, I know
that.
Nancy had a meeting with the specialists. I haven't had a chance to follow up with her. I think it
Okay.
was like Tuesday or Wednesday of this week.
Okay,
So I'll
So
bring
on
that
the
back to the
next-
committee. That'll probably be unfortunately April as well,
okay.
just because I think we've got a pretty robust start to the agenda for the 28th.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Anybody got, oh, I'm sorry.
Just one more. I just was wondering when the discussion on safety and some of the protocols regarding safety happen, as far as timeline goes. So I didn't know if we could get an update on things like, you know, lockdown procedures,
Mm-hmm.
fire drills, like how.
Yeah, we can give that.
I
You know,
didn't-
we try to be kind of general with that, just because
Yep.
we don't like to give a lot of that information out
Yep.
completely publicly. But I can give you
Yep.
kind of a general sense of kind of
Just
what's
an overall
kinda
safety
happening.
update
Yeah,
might be
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
I guess I just didn't know when it fell as far as our timeline.
Yeah, no, we can definitely do that. We can
Okay.
talk about kind of our work with the police and fire departments too.
Awesome. And again, it's fine if it's April, I guess, right? Because but
We might be moving into May. No, we should probably get that in the April meeting.
okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, here we are. It's not a record, but we're
Yeah.
close.
All right, anybody got any old business? No? All right, and with that, I look to make an motion to adjournment, but we do have executive session tonight, so I do need a roll call for executive session. Jim?
Yes.
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 Mr. Chairman, yeah, I know.
Oh.
I thought on executive session, just a question, do we need to have that just on our agenda, just saying that we are going to or not? I mean, I know that we
we've-
have it in a general standpoint, but I just
We-
want to make note that, I guess, just some background. I just looked at other committees within our schools, within our town. And when they do have executive session, there is a kind of what the executive
A
session
little
is going to be
brief
about.
summary of what it is.
So again, I think it's important, just as we lead into these meetings, that as a committee, we understand whether or not we're gonna have an executive session. I know we typically put it on the agenda, but it just, again, to give us feedback so we know. So with that, yes, with the feedback, please.
Thank you, Chris, yes. And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion by Megan, seconded by Jim, all in favor? Thank you, good night.